The sky burned red over what remained of Chicago. 3 days had passed since the Varden ships first appeared in Earth's atmosphere. No warnings, no demands, just destruction that rained down from above. Colonel Jack Howard stared at the holographic display showing the worldwide damage assessment. 87 major cities hit, millions dead. Conventional weapons had barely scratched the alien vessels. "They're regrouping for another wave," said Dr. Olivia Grant, her eyes red from lack of sleep. She pushed a strand of brown hair from her face and pointed to movement near Mars. "We have maybe 4 days before they return." Jack nodded. He had known Olivia for years. They had worked together on military projects before the invasion. But nothing had prepared them for this. "The president is dead," Jack said quietly. "Most of the chain of command, too." Olivia looked up sharply. "Who's in charge now?" "Technically, the Secretary of Agriculture. He was in a bunker in Nebraska. The temporary command center had been set up in an old missile silo in Colorado. Military personnel moved with purpose, but Jack saw the fear in their eyes. Humanity was losing, and everyone knew it. General Frank Peterson entered the room, his uniform dusty and torn at one sleeve. "Howard Grant, we need you in the war room." They followed Peterson down concrete hallways to a chamber where 20 people sat around a table, the remains of military command, along with scientists and engineers from around the world. "Ladies and gentlemen," Peterson began, "we're out of options. Our nuclear strikes did nothing. Our air forces are decimated. But," he paused, "we have a new opportunity." He nodded to a technician who played footage of a downed Varden ship in the ruins of Detroit. "One of their smaller vessels crashed mostly intact," Peterson continued. "We need to understand their technology, and fast." Jack leaned forward. "Sir, I have an idea. We don't have time to just study it. We need to use it." The room fell silent. "What are you suggesting, Colonel?" Peterson asked. Detroit was once the heart of American manufacturing. Some of the facilities might still be usable. What if we don't just examine their technology? What if we salvage it, repurpose it, build our own versions? Murmurs filled the room. A general from China spoke up. "Impossible. We can't hope to understand alien technology in days." "We don't need to understand all of it," Olivia cut in, excitement in her voice. "I've been studying the debris from smaller impacts. The metals have properties I'd never seen before, but they respond to certain Earth elements in ways we can work with." Jack nodded. "We don't need to match them technologically. We just need to survive. Use what they've left behind against them." Peterson studied them carefully. "You want to build weapons from their own wreckage." "Not just weapons," Jack said. "A fleet, something they won't expect." "From scrap?" someone asked incredulously. "From necessity," Jack answered. "Humanity built the atomic bomb in 3 years during World War I. We don't have 3 years, but we have something more powerful: desperation." Peterson was silent for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "What do you need?" "Everything you can give me. Every engineer, physicist, and mechanic still alive. Access to the crash site, and complete authority to requisition materials." "You'll have it," Peterson said. "This project needs a name." Olivia spoke softly. "Phoenix. In mythology, it rises from its own ashes." Jack looked around the room at the faces of people from nations that had been enemies just days before. Now they were humanity's last hope. "Project Phoenix begins now," Peterson announced. "Colonel Howard will lead military aspects. Dr. Grant will head research. You have 4 days before the next attack. Make them count." As they left the war room, Olivia grabbed Jack's arm. "Do you really think this can work?" Jack looked at her directly. "No, but I also know we're dead if we don't try." Outside, through a narrow window, the sky continued to burn red. Somewhere up there, the Varden were preparing to finish what they had started. But now, for the first time since the invasion began, humanity had a plan. Sam Kelly wiped sweat from his forehead as he led his team through the twisted metal landscape that was once downtown Detroit. The air smelled of burned plastic and something else, something alien. "Watch your radiation badges," Sam called out to the 5 people following him. "If they turn yellow, we head back immediately." Before the invasion, Sam had been a Navy mechanic with 15 years of experience. Now he was a scrapper, leading teams into dangerous impact zones to salvage anything useful from the alien wreckage. "Got something here," called Diane Martinez, crouching near a large piece of curved metal. Once a civil engineer, Diane now used her skills to identify structural components that might be worth taking back to base. Sam moved closer. "Is it safe to touch?" Diane passed a handheld scanner over the object. "Low radiation. Seems inactive." She pointed to a section that glowed faintly. "Look at this part. I think it's part of their propulsion system." Sam nodded. "Mark it. We'll send in the heavy team." 3 hours later, a convoy of reinforced trucks carried their findings back to the Phoenix facility. The former auto manufacturing plant had been quickly converted into humanity's best hope for survival. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter while engineers and scientists worked around the clock inside. Colonel Howard met them at the loading dock. "What did you find?" he asked as the trucks were unloaded. Sam pointed to the largest piece. "We think it's part of a drive system. If we're lucky, maybe even intact." Howard's eyes widened. "Get Dr. Grant." Olivia arrived minutes later, already wearing protective gear. She circled the alien technology, measuring readings with various instruments. "It's definitely a propulsion component," she confirmed. "And yes, partially intact." "Can we use it?" Howard asked. "Maybe, but we need someone who understands propulsion systems better than I do." Howard nodded. "I know someone, but she's complicated." The next morning, a helicopter landed outside the facility. A woman with short red hair stepped out, carrying only a small backpack. She walked with confidence despite the armed escorts on either side. "Kate Rodriguez," Howard said, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming." Kate ignored his hand. "You said you had alien tech. That true, or did you just get me out of house arrest for nothing?" Before the invasion, Kate had been one of America's most brilliant aerospace designers. She had also been convicted of selling classified designs to foreign governments. "It's true," Howard said, "and we need your help." Kate's expression changed when she saw the salvaged propulsion system. The anger in her eyes was replaced by curiosity. "You actually have one," she whispered, circling the component. "A Varden pulse drive. You recognize it?" Olivia asked, surprised. "I've seen the effects. Studied the burn patterns on buildings they've destroyed." Kate ran her hands over the metal. "This is what makes them so fast." Diane Martinez approached, carrying tools she had modified to work with the alien materials. "How do we take it apart without destroying it?" Kate looked at her. "We don't. We build around it." "That's not how engineering works," Diane argued. "It is now," Kate shot back. "We don't have time to understand every component. We need to make it work with what we have." Howard stepped between them. "Ladies, we have 3 days before the next attack. Whatever approach you take, it needs to happen fast." For the next 48 hours, the team worked without stopping. They built, failed, rebuilt, and failed again. The alien technology resisted their efforts, seeming almost alive in how it responded unpredictably to Earth materials. On the 3rd morning, Sam arrived with more salvage to find Kate and Diane working side by side, no longer arguing but completely focused on a complex diagram displayed on a screen. "We've got it," Kate said without looking up. "We can make an engine using the alien drive as a core. It won't be pretty, but it might fly." Howard looked at the design, then at the growing collection of salvaged alien parts his scrappers had gathered. "Start building," he ordered. "We're out of time." Everyone in the facility felt the explosion. The ground shook, lights flickered, and then alarms blared throughout the complex. Black smoke poured from the test chamber, where the prototype engine had been running for just 42 seconds before it failed. "Get a medical team down there now," Howard shouted, running toward the disaster. The security doors had automatically sealed, but he could see through the observation window. 3 bodies lay motionless on the floor, while others stumbled through the smoke. Diane Martinez was among the injured, her face burned on one side. The containment field collapsed. She gasped as medics helped her. The alien metal reacted with our cooling system. News of the failed test spread quickly. In the cafeteria that evening, Howard saw the fear and doubt on every face. They had 3 weeks until the Varden returned, and their best hope had just killed 3 good people. Colonel Howard, a young soldier, interrupted his thoughts. "General Peterson is on the secure line." The conversation was brief. Peterson didn't mince words. "The Chinese and Russians are pulling their scientists from Project Phoenix," he told Howard. "After today's disaster, they want to focus on evacuating their remaining populations underground." "Sir, we can fix this," Howard insisted. "We just need time." "Time is the one thing we don't have," Peterson replied. "The Varden fleet has changed course. New estimate puts them here in 5 days, not 3 weeks. Howard felt the blood drain from his face. 5 days. "I'm sorry, Jack. I've been ordered to redirect resources to the bunker projects. You have until tomorrow to show real progress, or Phoenix gets shut down." Howard found Olivia in her lab, examining fragments from the explosion. Her eyes were red from crying, but her hands were steady. "The general is shutting us down," he told her. She didn't look up. "I know. Word travels fast. We need a breakthrough, Olivia. Now." She finally met his gaze. "I might have something. The alien metal doesn't just conduct energy, it amplifies it. But it needs to be stabilized with a specific alloy." "Can you make this alloy?" "With Earth materials." "Maybe." She showed him her notes. "I've been combining different metals with tiny samples. This combination shows promise." Howard squeezed her shoulder. "Do it." In the medical bay, Kate Rodriguez lay in bed with a broken arm and 3 cracked ribs from the explosion. Despite her injuries, she was drawing on a tablet with her good hand. "You should be resting," Howard told her when he visited. Kate didn't look up. "I figured it out while I was lying here staring at the ceiling. I know why the engine failed." She turned the tablet toward him. "We were treating the alien tech like it works on combustion principles. It doesn't. It works on compression. We need to squeeze energy into a tight space before releasing it, not push it through like a traditional engine." Howard studied the new design. "Can this be built in 4 days? With Diane's tools and Olivia's new alloy?" "Yes." The next day, the team assembled in the main hangar. Howard explained the situation. The approaching Varden fleet, the government pulling support, their last chance to prove the project could work. "We have 4 days to build a working engine," he concluded. "If we fail, humanity goes underground and waits to be hunted down." Sam Kelly stood up. "Then we don't fail." For the next 72 hours, the Phoenix team worked without stopping. They built the new engine based on Kate's design, using Olivia's special alloy to stabilize the alien components. Diane directed the assembly from her wheelchair, her face still bandaged. On the morning of the 4th day, they gathered in the rebuilt test chamber. The new prototype sat in the center, connected to monitoring equipment. "If this works," Howard said quietly, "we still have a chance." Olivia began the startup sequence. The engine hummed, then glowed with a strange blue light. Power readings climbed steadily. 1 minute mark, someone called out. The previous prototype had failed at 42 seconds. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. When the engine had run successfully for 5 minutes, the room erupted in cheers. Howard immediately called General Peterson. "We have an engine," he said simply. "Now we need to build a ship around it." The skeleton of what would become Phoenix 1 took shape in the main assembly area. Workers welded day and night. following blueprints that were constantly being updated as the team learned more about the alien technology. "It's ugly," Sam Kelly said, looking up at the odd-shaped craft. Howard nodded. "As long as it flies, I don't care what it looks like." The ship combined the salvaged Varden drive with a human-designed frame. It looked like no aircraft ever built on Earth, asymmetrical and rough, with exposed components and hastily welded seams. Kate Rodriguez supervised the engine installation from a platform, her arm still in a cast. "The power coupling needs to be tighter," she called to the workers below. "If that connection fails, the whole ship explodes." Olivia arrived with a clipboard full of test results. "The hull plating is ready. We've bonded the alien metals with our alloys. It should withstand at least some enemy fire." "Some?" Howard asked. "It's the best we can do with what we have," she replied. As they worked, a new team arrived at the facility. Liz Warren, a former Air Force tactician, led a group of military analysts who would develop combat strategies for the hybrid vessel. "I need to understand its capabilities," Liz told Howard during their first meeting. "What can this thing actually do?" "We don't fully know," Howard admitted. "The alien drive should make it faster than anything we've built before. Beyond that, we're still learning." "You're building a weapon without knowing what it can do?" Liz asked, raising an eyebrow. "We're building our only hope," Howard replied. 3 days before the Varden were expected to arrive, Sam Kelly returned from a scrapping mission with an unexpected find. "We found this inside a smaller crash site," he told Howard, showing him what looked like a collection of curved metal tubes. "We think it's a weapon system." Diane Martinez, her face still bandaged but back on her feet, examined the find. "The energy signature matches what we saw when they fired on cities. This is definitely a weapon." Within hours, the team had mounted the alien weapon system onto Phoenix 1, connecting it to the ship's power core with cables and converters that Diane designed on the spot. "We need a pilot," Howard said during the final briefing. The ship was as ready as it would ever be. A man stepped forward from the back of the room. "I'll fly it." Alan Summers had been a commercial airline pilot before the invasion. He had lost his family when Los Angeles was destroyed. "Mr. Summers, this isn't a commercial jet," Howard warned. "We don't even know if our controls will work properly." "I've been in your simulator for the past week," Alan replied, "and I have nothing left to lose." The next morning, Phoenix 1 was moved to what remained of a runway outside the facility. The team gathered at a safe distance as Alan Summers climbed into the makeshift cockpit. "All systems are online," Kate's voice came through the radio. She and Olivia were monitoring from a control room. "Power levels are stable." Alan's voice was calm. "Beginning takeoff sequence." Phoenix 1 shuddered as its engines came to life. The strange blue glow intensified beneath it. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with surprising speed, the ship rose straight up into the air. "It's working," someone shouted. The ship hovered for a moment, then shot forward with incredible acceleration. "Control is responding," Alan reported, though his voice sounded strained. "It's fighting me. The alien systems are trying to take over." In the control room, warning lights flashed across the monitors. "Power fluctuations in the main drive," Kate reported. "The integration is failing." Everyone watched as Phoenix 1 banked sharply to the left, then to the right, clearly out of control. Smoke began to trail from one side. "I can't stabilize it." Alan's voice crackled through the static. "Preparing for emergency landing." The ship dove toward the ground at frightening speed. At the last moment, it leveled off slightly before skidding across the runway in a shower of sparks. Emergency teams raced toward the crash. To everyone's amazement, Alan Summers emerged from the wreckage, bloody but alive. "The controls reversed themselves mid-flight," he reported as medics checked him. "And the power surged without warning." Howard stared at the smoking remains of Phoenix 1. "Can it be fixed?" Kate was already examining data from the flight. "Yes. Now we know what went wrong. The next version will work better." The Varden will be here in 2 days, Liz Warren reminded them. Howard nodded grimly. Then we have 2 days to rebuild it. The alarms sounded just after midnight. Howard rushed into the command center where Liz Warren was already studying the radar displays. 6 Varden scout ships, she reported. They've detected our energy signature. Howard's stomach tightened. Phoenix 1 was still being rebuilt after the crash. Nothing was ready. How long do we have? 1 hour, maybe less. Howard called an emergency meeting. The key team members gathered quickly, faces tense with fear and determination. The Varden have found us, Howard explained. They're sending ships to destroy the facility before their main fleet arrives. We need to evacuate, Sam Kelly said. There's no time, Olivia replied, and nowhere to go. Diane Martinez had been quiet, studying blueprints on her tablet. Now she looked up. We have 5 incomplete prototype engines in the workshop. They won't fly, but they still generate power. What are you suggesting? Howard asked. We turn them into weapons. Position them around the facility. When the Varden get close enough, we overload the engines. Kate Rodriguez nodded slowly. It could work. The energy burst might disrupt their systems. Or it might do nothing, Liz warned. We have no other options, Howard decided. Do it. For the next 45 minutes, the team worked frantically. Sam and his scrappers moved the prototype engines into position around the facility perimeter. Diane and Kate modified them to produce maximum energy discharge when triggered. Olivia created a remote detonation system. Varden ships entering visual range, the voice announced over the speakers. From the roof of the facility, Howard watched 6 sleek alien vessels approach. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, gliding through the night sky with an eerie green glow. Everyone inside, he ordered. Diane, are we ready? Yes, sir, she replied through his radio. Engines are primed. We can trigger them remotely. The Varden ships moved into formation above the facility. They had destroyed entire cities with ease. The Phoenix building would be nothing to them. Wait until they're all in range, Howard instructed. We only get 1 shot at this. The first Varden ship fired. A section of the parking lot exploded, sending debris high into the air. The second ship targeted the main entrance, blasting it to rubble. Now, Howard shouted. Diane pressed the detonation button. The 5 prototype engines activated simultaneously, producing massive pulses of energy that shot upward in blinding blue columns. The Varden ships tried to maneuver away, but the energy bursts caught 3 of them directly. They shuddered in midair, their green glow flickering out. Then they dropped from the sky like stones, crashing into the ground with tremendous force. The remaining 3 ships veered wildly, their flight patterns suddenly erratic. It worked, Olivia exclaimed. The energy discharge affected their systems. Kate was studying readings on her monitor. Look at this, she said, pointing to energy fluctuations. Their shields drop momentarily after each weapon discharge. A weakness, Liz Warren said, leaning closer. They're vulnerable right after they fire. One of the remaining Varden ships recovered and turned to make another attack run. It fired at the facility, destroying part of the eastern wall. But in that moment after firing, its protective field dimmed. We need to hit them exactly when their shields drop, Howard realized. Olivia was already working at her station. I can modify the facility's power grid to create an electromagnetic pulse. But I need time. How much time? 20 minutes. Another explosion rocked the building as a second Varden ship fired. Get everyone working on it, Howard ordered. Sam, I need your team to keep those ships busy. Use whatever weapons we have. Sam nodded grimly and led his scrappers to the armory where they had been testing conventional weapons enhanced with alien technology. For the next 15 minutes, the battle raged. Sam's team fired modified rocket launchers at the Varden ships, not doing much damage but forcing them to keep moving. Each time an alien ship fired, they studied the momentary shield drop. When Olivia's EMP was ready, they had their timing perfected. Wait for them to fire, Howard instructed. Then hit them immediately. The next time a Varden ship attacked, Olivia triggered the pulse. A wave of energy shot outward from the facility, catching the alien vessel in its vulnerable moment. The ship froze in midair, then plummeted to the ground. They repeated the tactic with the last 2 ships. Within minutes, all 6 Varden scouts lay destroyed around the facility. As the team gathered to assess the damage, Kate approached Howard with excitement in her eyes. "We just learned how to defeat them," she said. "Their technology has a flaw." For the first time since the invasion began, Howard felt a glimmer of real hope. News of the Phoenix facility's victory spread quickly. General Peterson arrived by helicopter the next day, bringing with him military leaders from around the world. "You actually did it," Peterson said, surveying the wreckage of the Varden ships. "You found a way to beat them." "A weakness in their shields," Howard explained, "and we've learned how to use their own technology against them." "The main Varden fleet will reach Earth in 9 days," Peterson informed them. "We need more than 1 ship if we're going to stand a chance." Olivia stepped forward. "We'll need more facilities. This one can't build enough ships fast enough." Peterson nodded. "Every surviving manufacturing center has been ordered to convert to Phoenix production. We need your team to create a blueprint that can be followed worldwide." That evening, Howard gathered the core team in the main conference room. Maps displayed on the walls showed locations of intact industrial sites around the globe. "We need to standardize everything," Howard said. "Create a design that can be built quickly with minimal specialized knowledge." "I can simplify the engine integration," Kate offered. "Make it modular so assembly teams don't need to understand the alien tech." Diane raised her hand. "I'll create standard tools and processes for handling the alien materials. We can mass-produce them here and ship them worldwide." Sam Kelly had been quiet, but now he spoke up. "The biggest bottleneck will be getting enough alien materials. We need a better way to find and recover the crashed ships." Howard looked at him. "What do you suggest?" "Give me 20 helicopters and teams of scrappers. I'll create a salvage grid system to search every mile of impacted territory. We can train other teams to follow our methods." For the next 3 days, they worked to create a standardized Phoenix ship design. They named it the Firebird class to distinguish it from the original prototype. It was smaller, simpler, but incorporated everything they had learned. General Peterson arranged for the plans and specifications to be transmitted to facilities in China, Russia, India, Brazil, and a dozen other countries. Daily video conferences connected engineers around the world as a true global effort took shape. In Detroit, the first assembly line started production. Former auto workers returned to the rebuilt factories, now constructing alien-human hybrid starships instead of cars. Similar scenes played out in manufacturing centers worldwide. "It's not pretty," Alan Summers remarked as he walked through the Detroit factory with Howard. He had recovered from his crash and was now training other pilots. "But it's happening fast." Howard nodded. "Speed is all that matters now." Sam's new scrapping protocol increased recovery rates by over 200%. Helicopters flew grid patterns over impact sites, using specialized sensors designed by Olivia to detect alien materials buried under rubble. Kate created an adaptive AI system to help pilots control the ships. "The alien tech tries to take over during flight," she explained to the pilot trainees. "This system will counterbalance that tendency, making the ships more stable." Liz Warren established a worldwide combat training program, teaching pilots and gunners how to exploit the Varden shield weakness. "Hit them right after they fire" became the universal battle cry of Phoenix pilots. 7 days after the scout ships were defeated, the first Firebird-class ship completed testing. By the end of the 8th day, 12 more were ready. On the morning of the 9th day, with the Varden main fleet approaching Earth orbit, 50 Phoenix ships stood ready on runways around the world. In the Detroit Command Center, Howard looked at the monitors showing Phoenix facilities worldwide. Everywhere, the same scene played out. Pilots climbing into ships, ground crews making final checks, soldiers saying prayers. General Peterson appeared on the main screen. "Colonel Howard, is your fleet ready?" Howard looked at his team: Olivia, Kate, Diane, Sam, Liz, and Alan, who had accomplished the impossible in just weeks. "Yes, sir," Howard replied. "The Phoenix fleet is armed and ready for launch." Peterson nodded solemnly. "Then Operation Firebird is a go. May God help us all." Across the globe, 50 hybrid ships powered up their alien-human engines and rose into the sky, heading to meet humanity's greatest threat. The Phoenix fleet rose through Earth's atmosphere in formation. From his command ship, Alan Summers could see the other 49 vessels spread out around him, their engines glowing blue against the darkness of space. "Phoenix Command, this is Firebird Leader," Alan radioed back to Earth. "Fleet has reached orbital position." In the Detroit Command Center, Howard and his team monitored the operation. Large screens showed the positions of both the Phoenix ships and the approaching Varden fleet. "We count 127 Varden vessels," Olivia reported. "Their mothership is at the center of the formation." Howard studied the display. "Remind all pilots. Target the mothership. If we can destroy their command center, the rest might lose coordination." Liz Warren, who had developed the attack strategy, pointed to a section of the display. "The smaller Varden ships will protect the mothership. Our fleet needs to break through their defensive line." On the main screen, they could see the Varden fleet growing larger as it approached. The alien vessels were elegant and deadly, their green energy signatures forming a web-like pattern as they moved in perfect unison. "They're beautiful," someone whispered. "And they want us extinct," Howard replied. "Alan, commence Operation Firebird." In space, Alan Summers received the command and addressed the Phoenix fleet. "All units, remember your training. Wait for them to fire, then hit them immediately. Form up into attack groups." The 50 Earth ships split into 10 groups of 5 and spread out to approach the Varden fleet from different angles. It was a tactic Liz had developed to confuse the alien targeting systems. The first Varden shots came moments later, brilliant green energy beams that cut through the blackness of space. 2 Phoenix ships exploded instantly, but the others watched carefully, and the moment after the Varden fired, they struck back. The Phoenix weapons, modified versions of the salvaged alien technology, fired precisely when the Varden shields dropped. 3 enemy ships went dark and drifted off course. "It's working," Kate exclaimed in the command center. "The timing is perfect." The battle intensified as more ships engaged. The Phoenix fleet was outnumbered, but their knowledge of the Varden weakness gave them an advantage. More enemy ships fell, though Earth lost ships too. Howard watched with a mixture of hope and dread. They were making progress, but not quickly enough. At this rate, the Varden would still win through sheer numbers. "We need to get to that mothership," he said. In space, Alan had the same thought. He gathered the remaining ships of his attack group. "Firebird Group 1, follow me. We're going for the center." His group of now 3 ships accelerated toward the heart of the Varden formation. Enemy vessels moved to intercept them, firing continuously. "Wait until they all fire at once," Alan instructed his group. "Then push through the gap when their shields drop." The moment came, a barrage of green energy that nearly blinded them. As soon as it passed, the Phoenix ships surged forward through the momentary opening in the Varden defenses. "We're through," Alan reported. "I can see the mothership." The Varden mothership was massive, at least 10 times larger than any other vessel. It pulsed with green energy that seemed to flow like blood through veins across its surface. "Get as close as you can," Diane instructed over the radio. She and Kate had developed a special weapon for this moment. The disruptor needs to be in direct contact. Alan's ship took hit after hit as he drove toward the mothership. Warning lights flashed across his control panel, but he kept going. The other 2 ships in his group provided cover, drawing fire away from him. "Almost there," he reported, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. In the command center, Everyone held their breath. The cameras on Alan's ship showed the mothership growing larger as he approached. "Now, Alan," Howard ordered. Alan's ship made contact with the mothership's hull. He activated the disruptor, a device that would feed the alien vessel's own energy back into itself in an endless loop, causing a catastrophic overload. "Disruptor planted," Alan confirmed. "Pulling away now." His damaged ship struggled to break free from the mothership's gravitational field. For a moment, it seemed he wouldn't make it. Then the engine surged, and he was clear. The effect on the mothership was immediate. Green energy coursed wildly across its surface, building in intensity until the entire vessel glowed like a small sun. Then, in a silent explosion, it broke apart. Throughout space, the remaining Varden ships suddenly lost coordination. Some drifted aimlessly, while others began to retreat. "They're pulling back," Liz exclaimed. "The mothership must have been controlling them."